All right, I get it. We did a show on Bo Nix. We did a show on Jarrett Stidham. We did a show on Zach Wilson. Quarterbacks are done. There were a lot of other players out there getting it done, Mace. And we've got another full show for you here on a Saturday edition of OBT, which is a BFD, because we got to talk about everybody else. So where do you want to start?
Let's start with somebody that we've been talking about. We've been talking about Lucas Krull for a while now. And I'll give you credit. You were talking about him when he was still on the practice squad. I started talking about him once I saw him actually running routes in games.
Look good.
Yes, he did. Long stride, big guy. 6'6", 250 plus pounds, and the dude can move.
He can fly.
And on Thursday, he was moving, he was flying, he was making plays. And with Greg Dulcich not practicing, there's a moment here. There's a window. There's an opportunity for Lucas Krull. And based on what we saw, not only Thursday, but Sean Payton said throughout the week, Krull's taking advantage of it.
Yes. And Mace, I think that's probably my favorite thing, is that there's a window here and he's taking it. And I'm not going to get in the Jarrett Stidham thing. That's a different conversation. It's quarterback. But like, if he was just okay, or if he's like, he was good today. No, Krull is like, this is my job. It's not his job yet officially. The first depth chart won't be released until blah, 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 blah. But Krull is not resting on his laurels. He is attacking the football. He had one of the biggest plays of the day in practice on Thursday. And then he told the defense about it. We can't say what he said, but he told the defense about, and that was in double coverage on an extended play from Bo Nix that would not have been a sack.
Yep, exactly. He was carpeing that spherum, even though it's not exactly a sphere, but sphera is Latin for ball.
Yes.
So I'm trying to say like carpe diem and carpe spherum. He was grabbing that, like, and that's the thing, like double coverage, like he's getting attention from the defense, from the first team defense, and he's still making plays. Like this was the thing is, I mean, you look back last year, I mean, there were opportunities that he had where he came close. Like there was the near touchdown against Houston. He leaps up. Russell Wilson's pass just doesn't quite have enough on it. You get the defender coming in front, makes the pick. That's game. You get Jack Jones making the play in Week 18 when Krull's running a post route, and Jarrett Stidham with a really nice ball for a 43-yard touchdown, and Jones just basically makes one of the best open field passes defensed I've seen in a long time.
Right.
Sometimes you do get beat, but he was in position to make the play. He was in position to make the play in Houston. What I saw on Thursday, especially when you're talking about in tight blanket coverage, making a catch, first of all, Bo Nix hitting some tight windows. That's something you like.
Yes.
Second of all, Lucas Krull making a play in traffic. That's something you like. And one of the things that we see from a good quarterback in practice, and this is something I'm sure that Peyton Manning would tell Bo Nix, is that you're trying to test what the receivers and tight ends and running backs can handle and find out what the window is. Like, do they need a wide window or can they make a catch in a tight window? You know, some days Peyton Manning would get picked off 3 times. He was trying to figure out the window that he had with Eric Decker or Demaryius Thomas or Emmanuel Sanders or somebody else.
Right.
He's trying to get that right. What Bo Nix learned, and we saw Thursday, but what Bo Nix is probably going to learn with Lucas Krull, if Krull really has made the next step in his development in terms of being able to make catches in traffic, is that you can throw a tight window pass and Lucas is going to have a really good chance to come down with it.
I said it on Denver Sports Tonight, Mace, but I'll reiterate it here. That was bracket coverage, and you shouldn't make that throw. But he extended the play, and he gave his receiver a chance. And then not only does the receiver catch it, he took it to the house.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that's trust. Who do you trust? Hubba, hubba, hubba. Money, money, money. 89 Batman. Who do you trust? You see Krull and Nix building that trust.
Mm-hmm. And that's the value of the reps right now.
Mm-hmm.
we talk about what is Courtland Sutton missing by not being out there. And on Thursday, Sean Payton was talking about still, Courtland Sutton's still a leader, important part of the team,
Sure.
blah, blah, blah. But you missed those reps. Greg Dulcich working his way back from the foot, which was on top of the hamstring. He's missing those reps. Lucas Krull is getting them. And if you listen to the way Sean Payton talked about Lucas Krull, Krull's becoming pretty prominent in Sean Payton's heart as well. Let's roll that footage.
Man, I thought he's had a good week. And I said, if you didn't notice, everyone in the media was looking down at the rosters to see who 85 was. And I said, someday soon they're going to know who 85 is. He's looking sharp.
God bless America. That's a great answer.
Yes. My question, great answer. That was good. Because what happened, I asked Sean specifically about, there was a moment where he said something to Lucas Krull. It was after one of the plays that he made, and Krull was coming back to the huddle, and he kind of pulled him aside for a moment. That's always something to watch, because when Sean Payton talks to a player specifically, it means he's invested in him. Why did Jerry Jeudy get chance after chance last year before they finally traded him? Payton wanted to get something out of him. Every day was coaching him up. So I saw that conversation, and Sean's very, he, like me, kind of talks with his hands. And so I asked him about that. What did you tell him? That's really cool. To say, they don't know who you are, but they will someday. Well, he said that to myself, and I'm like, I know who 85 is. You know who 85 is.
I almost said something. That's how much of an aloha
I almost did too. I'm like, Sean, I know who 85 is.
We know 85.
I've interviewed him a few times.
Right.
Can't speak for everybody else, but I do.
Man alive. And just you see the reverence that he has. And also, Mace, there's nothing better in life than someone who helps prove that you're right. And with Sean Payton, seeing the progress of Lucas Krull, he's excited because he knows what he can do with this guy.
Yes.
And that excites Sean Payton.
It excites Sean Payton. It's also, I know we joke about all the ex-New Orleans people who are around the Broncos. Lucas Krull is one of them. Now, he didn't play for Sean Payton. He came to the Saints in 2022, the year Sean Payton was working for Fox. But
Mickey picked him up.
Yep. Sean Payton's still very tight with Mickey Loomis. So Mickey will tell him, we don't have room for him right now, but this guy can play if you give him an opportunity. And Broncos bring him in. Krull talked to us back in January about the progress he made. Basically, 2022, he was on the practice squad all year in New Orleans. 2023, half the season on the practice squad, half the season playing. And he was actually a practice squad activation. And then the Broncos finally had to bump him up because they needed him. Greg Dulcich wasn't healthy. And he was making palpable progress. So he's gone from undrafted, year on the practice squad, half practice squad, half playing. The next step is playing a full season. And for a tight end, which is a position that is a difficult one to really master, that's a perfectly cromulent development plan.
Mm-hmm.
The 3-year plan.
Usually takes 3 years.
Yes. It's just that when you're a first-round pick, you don't get that kind of grace. When you're undrafted, like Lucas Krull, you do get that sort of grace to develop because, it's a position that basically requires 3 positions, right? It's 3 skill sets. It's pass pro, run blocking, and then being a pass catching target. That's why it's hard to grasp early because you're asking, to learn 3 skill sets rather than 1. And not everyone ends up getting that. Like Greg Dulcich hasn't gotten the blocking part. He may never get the blocking part.
And Krull can block.
This is actually one of the interesting things because Greg Dulcich, having lost weight as they're trying to figure out the riddle of the hamstrings, Greg Dulcich becomes a joker and you move him around in space, but Greg Dulcich probably does not have much of a role as an inline tight end, whereas Lucas Krull, you can put him in space. And if you see 6'6", 253 coming at you, and you're a slot corner that's 5'11", 195. Whoa, mama. Okay.
Mhm.
There's some matchup problems you can cause with Lucas Krull in space, but he's big enough, he's powerful enough to be able to slide down, go in line, and do the dirty work inside and help him pass pro, help chip off on the edge. And that's going to make him pretty valuable.
Yeah. It's what I always say is the declaration of influence. When you have a player like Lucas Krull, you're going to influence the defense because you're going to look heavy, but it's not heavy. It can be heavy. We can ram it down your throat with 22 personnel, which is 2 backs and 2 tight ends. But what if your 2 tight ends are Troutman and Krull? Troutman's okay, and Krull's a receiving threat. Now you've got a different influence. So your defense is going to have a heavier package because you're declaring 22. They're going to go heavy. You're not going heavy.
Yeah.
That's a pass play.
The other thing also with Troutman is he's one of the smartest guys on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not only smart, but he knows how to relay and translate information and even the intent of Sean Payton and the coaching staff, having played in New Orleans, to the rest of his teammates. Adam Troutman is really one of those players. You look at the numbers and say, oh, he's just a guy. He's got a huge amount of value on that team. For all that we're talking about with Greg Dulcich and Lucas Krull, you know who's going to be probably starting week 1 at tight end, first snap? It's going to be Adam Troutman.
Sure.
And that's okay.
It's a resource.
He brings a lot to the table beyond just how much he catches the football. And that's why they brought him back. And they quickly brought him back. That was not, let's see him test the market. Nope, they did it like Ab Troutman, Will Lutz, the dudes they did right away, right? PJ Locke, pretty quickly done. Like that tells you something about how they view these glue type players in terms of bringing this team together. All of them, by the way, I mentioned those 3. They're all leaders in some way. And with Troutman in particular, Lucas Krull figured that out. And both in New Orleans in 22 and last year in Denver, really leans on Adam Troutman as a resource.
Yep. Get in his back pocket.
Learning how to be a pro. And that's going to be invaluable. When Adam talks about Lucas, after the Chargers game in particular last year in Los Angeles, Adam talks about Lucas Krull like a big brother, like a proud big brother talking about his little brother, right? It's really cool. They've got a really special dynamic, the two of them together. I like having them both in the room.
Yeah, it's a good room, and maybe this is why they didn't draft the tight end. Now they have Greg Dulcich. We're getting a ton of questions. All right, Sean Payton told you about Greg Dulcich on Thursday. Here's what Coach had to say.
He's close. Man, he's had all the work done. We're encouraged. I think you'll see him sooner than later, and we want to be smart.
Does he have some kind of off-season procedure or something?
Well, no, look, there's been trips back and forth relative to checkups, but his rehab has gone well, and it's not going to be we don't see him till training camp.
Okay, let's talk about trips back and forth for checkups. I mean, you've got him going to specialists. This is another thing. And do they have hopes for Greg Dulcich as a joker, somebody in space in the tight end position? Yes. But Lucas Krull tells you they're not putting all their eggs in Greg Dulcich's basket. And if Dulcich can't be the joker, if he can't play enough to do those things in space, you know what? They're going to plug Lucas Krull in and have him do that. That's where this is going. And
I think it might already be there, man.
Yeah. They would not have stood pat through the draft And even right after the draft, because inevitably you see teams, okay, we don't get what we want in the draft. The Broncos at tight end, they didn't get what they wanted in the draft last year. So down the line in the draft, they trade for Adam Troutman, right? Because they were looking at tight end, didn't get any of the targets that they had earlier in the draft. And so they brought in Adam Troutman. So they let the entire draft pass, and the most prominent tight end they bring in is Thomas Yasmin as an undrafted free agent out of Utah. Strictly a developmental guy. I mean, he's still learning how to play the game. He's a converted rugby player. He is in the international program, so little break for the Broncos roster-wise does not count against your practice squad. So basically, like, he's going to be on the team. He's going to take a year to develop, and you're going to see where he goes.
Right.
But he's not – it's not about this year for him. Because I'm bringing him up because I know someone will see this and be like, oh, what about Thomas Yasmin? Because we got a lot of Utah fans who are also Broncos fans.
Sure.
It's not about this year for him. It's get him in your system, teach him, see where he is in a year, even 2 years, frankly. That's where it stands for him.
Yeah, it's going to take some time.
So, but yeah, their moves at tight end, I mean, they basically shed from the position because they did not bring back Chris Manhertz, primarily the blocker, which probably says something about Nate Adkins, who could also be a fullback, although Nate Adkins went up for a Zach Wilson pass on Thursday, 45 on 45, Nate Adkins, Omar Brown, and it was Omar Brown, the undrafted rookie, who won the day with the pick.
And off to the races for what was a pick six in practice. So
yes, that was the only pick of the day, by the way, was
right.
And to go back to our previous Zach Wilson conversation from Friday, yeah, like it wasn't a good decision on Zach Wilson's part.
Right. So we'll see what happens there. Let's move off of tight end and get to some other players. I know Riley Moss, Nick Bonito. We've got some Cody Barton thoughts, and then we've got some clips from the secondary, from Brandon Jones specifically, because I was watching Barton. I was also watching the secondary because we need to know who's opposite PS2, and we also need to know how these safeties are going to work out. But again, Bonito, good day. Riley Moss, good day. We got more to chop up.
Yeah, Nick Bonito, he made life rough for Garett Bolles. Very rough. And that's what it was probably healthy for Bo Nix as well to experience this. But
yes,
also some of it is when you're identifying a defense, you gotta slide the protection over, right? So some of that is going to be pre-snap on Bo Nix. Some of that's going to be on Bonito simply whipping past Garett Bolles. What I did like from Bo Nix was stepping up and out of the rush, but still, Bonito, first step was absolutely explosive. Probably as explosive as I've seen his first step since that Cowboys practice of 2022 with all the fights. Nick Bonito took over that practice. He took over Thursday's practice.
Yes, and it's one of the reasons why when George was out there, George looked like a proud papa. You see him? Hands on his hips.
That's my guy. But the thing is, that's not the question on Nick Bonito. We know he can rush the passer.
Yes.
But can he be stout enough when setting the edge to where you can play him on first and second down, to where he's more than just a rotational sub-package guy? We didn't get the answer on that. Although if you look at how they were using their guys, it was a use that you're familiar with if you've been paying attention, how they use their edges. It was very similar to what it was when all hands were on deck last year.
Right. So we'll see on the running backs quickly, since we're bringing up like run at Bonito. Well, all right. Javonte looks like he's just going to be what he was last year. Early, he could get better, but I didn't see the burst from John. Samaje looked good.
Samaje looked really good.
Good burst. So, and what I've said before, Mace, I talk a lot. Sorry.
It's okay.
Is like, if Javonte's the guy out, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not predicting that, but just based on what we saw yesterday, like Samaje looked really good and Javonte looked like broken Javonte.
Yeah. And it's tough because if he's going to have that explosiveness, it's going to manifest when you're playing without pads, when you're playing without contact. I mean, to tell you the level of contact that is expected, You don't see guardian caps when they're out there for OTAs. You'll see them in training camp, but
Sure.
you didn't see them in OTAs. Why? Because you're not hitting anybody. It's basically glorified touch football. And in that environment, your quickness is going to be on display, and it wasn't. It looked the same as last year. That's tough to watch. Now, doesn't mean he can't get there. And it was the third day of the week, and so maybe maybe the dogs are barking kind of, but it was tough. And watching that practice made me think, okay, we'll probably see a fair amount of Estime if he blossoms.
Yeah, and Estime, I thought, caught the ball well. And again, with running backs, we can't really tell because there's no contact. But Estime looked good. Jaleel looked good, catching cleanly in space. I liked Watson as a receiver and as a runner. I was watching the spread of the feet with Jaleel, who I've often worried about his contact balance. His feet are really narrow. So when he's taking the steps, they're close together so you can trip him up. With Blake, his feet are separated a little bit more, and I think that adds to his contact balance. Again, a later conversation, but still.
The other thing on Blake Watson is, boy, he hits fifth gear in a hurry. Like, they
got some speed.
If you were talking about a car, it's 0 to 60 like that. That's the thing. Like there was one play where he saw a crease and he hit it right as it was still forming. That's how fast he gets there. But he's got the vision is there, the acceleration is there. Man, I got excited watching Blake Watson a couple of times on Thursday. Like, that's a part of it. I admit, do we have a bias for guys we talk up? Yeah, we probably do.
Sure.
But we'll cop to that.
They got an exciting skill set. I thought Beatty, showed some stuff. Beatty showed some stuff at rookie minicamp. So
by the way,
good day for Beatty.
Yeah, like, he gets lost in the shuffle so much, but
there's more speed. He's got more speed.
And when he gets the chance, I mean, obviously he got the chance that he had one game back in January 2023, right? He catches one pass. He has one carry. The one carry doesn't go anywhere, but the one catch he passes is for a touchdown. Like, he's got a hell of a stat line here. At some point, it's like, okay, let's see what he's got. Like, although Sean had a comment about him.
He said, I hope we don't see you here next year.
Yeah, like he meant don't see him at rookie minicamp, but like it's sort of a reminder though for these guys, the clock ticks quickly, right? You know, Beatty is 24 years old, so I mean he's the same age as Bo Nix, but this is year 3 for him in the NFL, and he's practice squad 2022, plays that season finale. Practice squad 2023. You can't be a practice squad guy forever. And oh, by the way, you've got the next generation of guys coming up like Blake Watson, right? So that's the thing. He's now looking behind and he's seeing these young bucks on their way, right? So
we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Wide receiver, we've gotten a lot of questions about Tim Patrick. And what I've said is in a tight space, he was moving well in terms of his movement. And but when it required more of a gear, it's not there, unfortunately.
There was a decided hitch that I observed in his straight line. Doesn't mean he can't overcome this. And don't forget, it was day 3 of the week. And so the fact that he's out there for a third day says a lot too. But at that point, do you have soreness kicking in? Do you have, fatigue? It's never a straight line back, especially when you take the Achilles and pile it on top of the ACL. So I think you want to be careful with Tim Patrick. The route running was good. The instinct, the pass catch, it's all still there. It's just, I do get concerned that this was a guy who probably didn't have a half step to spare in terms of straight line speed. and he had that hitch. But let's see where he is in a few weeks. Let's see how he's looking the more he moves. Let's see what kind of confidence he gets as well. So I'm cautiously optimistic because all the other elements were there for him.
Yes.
And the thing is, if he doesn't have the explosiveness down the field, but he's still operating well in traffic and he's still running good routes, that's a useful player for this team, even if you know that when you get him the ball, he's not going to get 30 yards after the catch probably, unless it's just wide open for him. It may be late career Larry Fitzgerald for Tim Patrick.
And he may be the Adam Troutman of the wide receiver room.
Yeah. That's another thing. There's so much that he brings beyond just catching the football.
Yep.
And the other thing also, he looked just ecstatic to be out there. Like I was watching him in warm-ups, like he had the biggest smile on his face. Like even though you can kind of see the hitch and, he's sometimes you look with my binoculars, you see him wince a little bit, but there's a joy there with him. Like, and understandable, because when you've had something you love taken away like that,
twice,
just getting a taste of it in practice, that's going to make you feel good. And by the way, the prominence of how they were using him as well, I think that also says something about where they're hoping Timmy Pats can go, because he wasn't buried on the depth chart.
Not at all.
We can't say like, oh, whatever,
right, where he was, whatever.
But he wasn't buried. He was prominent.
We can say that number looks weird on him, but the new 81, he was talking to Vele, and I told Rachel, I said, Vele could be this Marcus Colston. I don't want to put that on him. I'm not predicting that.
I like it.
What's the vision for Vele? Because Vele once again, Vele looked outstanding.
Yes, he did. Absolutely did. I got excited about both Vele and Troy Franklin on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
With Vele, he stacked a good day on top of the good day that we saw in rookie minicamp. And look, a bunch of those guys are not around anymore. So the competition's level stepped up, and Vele stepped up with it. Troy Franklin, that ran some good routes, and that post route that he had, and Jarrett Stidham hit him toward the end of practice. Yeah, I'm doing a chef's kiss on a Jarrett Stidham pass and Troy Franklin route. Yes.
That's our kiss right there.
Oh, yes.
That kiss, or we could give him the Keanu kiss. How about that? There you go. Either one.
We're affectionate blankety blankers here.
And
sometimes it's sarcasm, but yes.
We could have split this show into two shows. My God, we're giving you so much here, but there's so much to say, Mace. Like, we still haven't talked about Cody Barton, Riley Moss, and then we've got two clips from the secondary from Brandon Jones to play as well. So let's get to that, because this one's already been a jam-packed show. Yeah, Cody Barton, up and down day for Cody.
Well, for him, the equation is going to be what he can do in pass defense, because that's why you're bringing him in. You're not going to bring him in as a plus player against the run. Like last year with Washington was a liability there. He should have had an interception. And actually there was a little bit of frustration evident, but it was a short pass across the middle. If he was just a tick slow to react to it, and the success equation for Cody Barton requires being quick, making the play on the ball. So that was a frustrating moment. At the same time, you see him going step for step in coverage. That's why you brought him in. And he wasn't getting torched out there. That's another. So how often have we seen that from the inside linebackers? So what by and large, what you're asking him to do, he did. It's just that to really complete the package, when there's a chance to make a play on the ball, he's got to make a play on the ball.
Yes, that's what you're paying him for. I thought it was good to see Jonas Griffith out there. We'll put a pin in that.
Moved really well. He did. Also, and don't sleep on him playing extensively at inside linebacker. He's very much in the picture right now coming back from injuries. But he's got to stay healthy. Same thing as Tim Patrick.
Right.
He's missed a season and a half, basically.
Yeah, it's basically kind of the same situation. Riley Moss, I like the way that he was making guys look open and then closing quickly. So his intelligence was on display.
Yeah, you had him, Damari Mathis out there a fair amount as well. But Riley Moss played with a savvy that belied his lack of actual game experience in the NFL. So that was really encouraging to see. And also, you look at him out there, I mean, he's long. He's got some size to him. Like he causes some problems with his frame when he's in coverage.
And then with his recovery speed, like you're just you may want to make that throw, and Riley Moss is going to make you rethink that.
Yes,
so that was good.
And that's the key for CB2 in this defense. You're going to see the ball. You've got to be able to make plays on the ball. Like Riley Moss might give up if he's your CB2. Riley Moss might give up 5 touchdowns directly, 5-6 touchdowns over the course of the year. Okay. But if he's making enough plays on the ball to where he's broken up 13 or 14 passes and he's got 4 or 5 picks, again, that's on the scales of things, that's something you'll take.
You're going to accept sometimes getting burned just in the nature of that position and the nature that no one's going to throw at Surtain.
Yes. But can you generate takeaways? Can you make them pay for throwing at you? Because if you do that, if you enough times, whether it's a third down pass breakup or pick, you do that enough times, they think twice about throwing at you, and then all of a sudden they're turning back to Surtain, and then you're letting PS2 do his thing. That's the luxury of having a good CB2, which is what the Broncos are trying to develop.
And speaking of takeaways, this leads directly into the lack of Justin Simmons. Now, I wanted to know when we talked to Brandon Jones about okay, there's a shadow of 31 out there. Apologies to Chris Abrams-Drain, but
it's
not
so
having Justin
weird
Simmons,
looking at that, by the way, when you see
it's
31
odd.
at corner, that was the most jarring sight of Thursday for me.
It's very odd. So when we got to talk to Brandon Jones, I had to ask him about that just to kind of gauge, how much of a shadow is there of Simmons. And he brought up takeaways. Here's what Brandon Jones had to say.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things, obviously, just playing in the league, too. He's, he had 30 interceptions in his career here, which is, incredible. I actually met him a couple weeks ago. Super nice, super chill guy. But, yeah, it's going to be some big shoes to fill. But I'm going to do my part and do my best, especially with PJ. We're definitely a young group, so this is going to be my first time to have to actually – be the seasoned vet in the room and hold guys accountable and get everybody to the standard that we need to be.
I'm going to do my part.
I thought about that when he said that. Who's saying I didn't do?
Bleep. Yeah. Okay. Well, he met him. He talked to him. Good guy. But again, those takeaways, Barton, Moss, Jones, somebody's got to get those takeaways because you don't have 31 anymore.
Right. You're losing those picks. Probably nobody playing safety in the league had better ball skills the last few years than Justin Simmons. Brandon Jones, by the way, 3 career interceptions in 4 years. 2 last season. 1 in his first 3 years. So 3 interceptions over 54 games, 30 starts. He's going to have opportunities for more. PJ Locke, it took him a while to finally get an interception. He got the first one of his career back against Green Bay last year to clinch that game. So sometimes it can be a little while in coming, but there are going to be opportunities there because most quarterbacks are going to look at PS2 and say, I'm not throwing in this direction. Where is it coming from? Is it going to be recreating Justin Simmons in the aggregate? It may have to be. If we're talking about, okay, where are you getting those picks from? Are you getting a couple from Brandon Jones? Are you getting a couple from Cody Barton? Are you getting a couple from PJ Locke? It may have to be that way. And yes, this defense needs to generate turnovers. When it was working, those 5-game winning streak, when it was working, what was happening? Takeaways. The Broncos were taking away the football, and they were winning the giveaway takeaway margin. So that is absolutely essential for this team finding ways to win. The success equation for the Broncos relies around giveaway takeaway.
Yep. You can be softer against the run. You don't want to be, but you can.
Yeah.
You take away the ball, it doesn't matter. So Vance Joseph's biggest task this offseason is, from the aggregate, figuring out how to replace the Justin Simmons being gone.
Right. And that's a big ask. And it's gonna have to be a collective. It's part of why, like, you look back, like, cutting Justin Simmons, man, it was tough. He's still out there, but the Broncos have moved on. But sometimes I think to myself, man, like, it'd be nice to have those picks back.
It'd be nice. It'd be nice.
He's unique with his ball skills. He really is.
Yep. And a good man. That's for
Yes, he
sure.
is.
Brandon Jones did talk about quarterbacks too. I want to play this clip because I think it's fun and it shows some stuff about Bo Nix that is insightful. So here's the Broncos' new safety talking about their new quarterback.
Yeah, it's been awesome. They do a really good job of understanding the defense. That's what right now, with disguise and stuff like that, like, they kind of already know. Like, I could see when I'm dropping down or something like that, they're looking at me dead in my eyes. So I'm like, okay, I got to figure out where I got to go. But yeah, they have a really nice touch on the ball, super accurate. And yeah, making the throws that need to be made.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah. That's interesting. So already looking off the safeties. I like that.
Let me look on you with my own eyes.
We should have a challenge of, like, a Star Wars quote every show.
Don't do an OBT drinking game. You will develop a problem.
Yes.
Anyway, what a hefty show. Saturday show. We got Sunday show, Monday show coming up for you as well. But Mace, before we're out of here, how do people, you love the big shows, how do you help us out on YouTube then?
Like,
Comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell.
so that you
Never
miss
a
vid. That's right. He is Andrew Mason. Follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey, saying OBT is a BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. And would you please stay frosty,